So I was watching a video of Byron Katie doing the work with somebody. And if you're not familiar with Byron Katie and the work, I highly recommend you check it out. You can go to thework.com and find all of her free resources. She gives everything away for free. It's amazing. Or go to her YouTube channel where she has tons of videos of her doing the work with people. And the work is a process of self-inquiry. So it is a tool for helping us navigate into the center of our own true nature, into our own personal truth. It's kind of an antidote to any kind of negative emotion, really. Like if you're feeling lost or angry or like a victim in the world, like do the work. Do the work. There's something in there that she says, like the people that you find unlovable, those are the doorways to your heart. Do the work. So highly recommend that you check that out if you haven't already. And so this is an interesting story. I've watched a bunch of her doing the work on lots of subjects with lots of different people. Subject doesn't really matter. I feel like no matter what subject it is, you can put like yourself in the middle of it every single time. And so I don't have to agree with the subject to click on the video, is what I'm saying. And this particular video was called Trump Frightens Me, Donald Trump. And this woman is doing the work on this emotion. Donald Trump frightens me because, and she had reasons. Oh boy, did she have reasons, lots of them. And they weren't bad ones. And she had told, like before she came up on stage to do the work with Byron Katie on Donald Trump, she had told some other people that were at the event before that she is going to do the work on Donald Trump, and she does want to go up and like actually volunteer and do that. And one of the other people that she was talking to, this is the part, said, "I can't do that because I'm not done hating him yet." And that really stuck out to me because I resonated with it. Not this moment, not with Donald Trump, like I'm over it, but in the past, there have been people where I didn't want to stop hating them. It felt better to hate them. And so I moved in that direction. I went towards that feeling. And this person vocalized it exactly. I'm not done hating him yet. I can't do the work. I'm not done hating him yet. The work is a tool for self-inquiry that can help transmute literally any negative emotion. I've used it on several negative emotions myself already, just even in the short time that I've been playing with it. And you can transmute basically any negative emotion that you feel, given that you are ready for that, given that you are intent on leaving that particular emotional state. And this person was not ready for that. This person was ready to stay in hatred of another human being. And I'm not drawing this out to judge or criticize this person. I'm really giving it some space because I wonder if, like me, you can put yourself in that situation and recognize a moment in time where it truly felt better to hate someone than to not. And why is that? Why? Why would we ever want to hate someone? It's not even true that like universal, like I would have, before hearing that and before this whole contemplation, I would have said like it's a universal truth that like all humans want love. That's not true. It is not a universal truth that all humans want love, because maybe deep down, like in terms of their soul self, like if we got really specific, maybe there's a part of every human that does want love. But on the whole, there's plenty of humans out there that are not wanting love in this moment. In fact, they wanted hate. That person like wants hate, would rather have hate than love for Donald Trump. And at first I was like, I don't get that. And then I did. And I think I got something that helps us to understand why that is. And to understand why that is, I want to take a step back from hate specifically and talk about the emotional scale. And this emotional scale is I think, a scale in general, like a spectrum where there's a midpoint of like neutrality, so to speak. That's not really like an emotion, but you would have certain more neutral feeling emotions towards the center and towards either extreme, either end. On the positive end, you would have like Zen and bliss, freedom, joy. On the negative end, you have grief, despair, depression, sadness. So these two ends of this emotional spectrum, and there are all kinds of emotions. There are tons of emotions. Like Brene Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart, chronicles 87 different emotions and emotional experiences that we humans have. And there are way more than that. That's like not even all of them. Those are just the ones that she chose to put in her book. So there are tons of emotions, and every single one of them is plotted somewhere along this emotional spectrum. Right? So it's either closer to the midpoint where you're going to flip from negative to positive, or it's extremely positive, it's extremely negative, it's marginally negative, it's marginally positive. You see what I mean? So, for example, let's say that as we sit in the midpoint of this emotional spectrum and we head towards the negative side, the first, I'm going to skip some, but just to give you an idea, one of the first little towns we're going to encounter as we head towards the negative side is annoyance. Okay? Annoyance. It's like, that's annoying. And then if we stay there, if we spend more time looking at that thing, if we keep doing the thing that is annoying us, as we spend more time there, it'll become more extreme. It grows into frustration. Same. If we spend enough time there, if we keep putting up with the thing that's frustrating us, eventually it grows into anger. And if we spend enough time there, if we keep putting up with the thing that's angering us, eventually we get hatred. So, and hatred isn't even the end. I mean, hatred is actually like pretty close to the middle when you factor in things like despair, hopelessness, depression. Those things are way, way more negative than hatred. Hatred's actually just like one town over from anger. Anger's just a couple towns over from frustration. Frustration's just a couple towns over from annoyance. And annoyance is just a hop, skip, and a jump to the positive side of the spectrum. So yeah, why would someone want to stay in hatred? Why not hop, skip, and a jump over to the positive side of the spectrum? Again, I'm not judging. There's a reason. There's a reason. Because better is relative. To feel better is a relative thing. And anger and hatred, like from where I'm sitting right now, politics aside, like Donald Trump is a human being on this planet, and he makes choices that I personally don't agree with, and I would never make those choices. But him as a human being, he has every right to exist, same as I do. And with that, I have found a level of like unconditional love for Donald Trump as far as like he's alive, he's present, and that carries a level of worthiness, again, same as me, same as every other person on this planet. So from where I'm sitting, hating him feels rotten, feels disgusting. To move in that direction, it feels like dragging myself down into a heavy, toxic pit of despair. Like it just does not feel good to go in that direction. But if you're coming from a place of hopelessness, hating him feels a lot better than being in utter despair, despondency over your lack of options, your lack of power. There is no way forward. There is no way out. That's hopelessness. It's over. This is the end. That's hopelessness. And if that's where you are, and then you move towards hating him, you have you've created a positive shift. Good for you. You moved into a more empowered place. Good for you. Hating someone after you've been despondent, after you've been hopeless, hating them is essentially, really what hate is like waging war on your enemy. And I'm not a fan of war. Not a fan at all. But at the same time, like if you're over here giving up, like halfway to suicidal, depressed, despondent, hopeless, if that's where you are, and then you find yourself in hate, there is so much more life force there. Oh my gosh, is there life force there compared to depression? Hate is, like I said, it's just a town over from anger, and anger is full of your power. That's really where you start to like get a big old dose of your power. When you're mad about something, beautiful, because it's helping you hook up with your power. So, is hating someone wrong? I would argue that depends. I would say it depends on where you're coming from. You know? If you feel good, I wouldn't recommend hate at all, because that's like 50 steps backwards. But if you're coming from a place of despair, hate is forwards. Hate is an improvement. And to say I'm not done hating him yet, I think to myself, like anytime I've hated someone, it truly was like coming from a place of previously feeling extremely powerless. And the hate emboldened me to enact my own will. You know, like hate, I think at its core is nothing more than deep disagreement with what you're looking at. And so when you look at something that you hate, you see yourself in reverse. And that's why you hate them. Enacting your will isn't about changing them. It's about surrendering to what you want. You know, you see something in the world that you hate, okay. Be the counterpoint. Step forward and be different. Be something different for this world to see. Get in the mix. Offer something different. Skew the average to something different. And that's, of course, when you're done hating, right? When you are tired of carrying the burden of hating that person, which will come. It's inevitable, because again, it's not about them. That reflection that they're helping you to see is about you moving closer to your own integrity, moving closer to your own inner truth, scraping away any of the falsehoods that you've ever picked up along your path, and all that will be left is your own true heart. And the people that we hate are bringing that true heart back from, I personally believe that when we're born, we have this ember inside our soul. And when we get here, when we're babies, it's a wildfire. It's all we are. We're just instinct, and that's it. And as we learn, as we develop language, as we receive our cultural conditioning from the people that greeted us when we came into this world, that ember, it just becomes a smaller and smaller and smaller, or that fire, it becomes a smaller and smaller and smaller portion of our overall energy. But as long as we're here, as long as we're alive, that is literally, in my book, proof that that ember is still burning on some level. And hating someone is like fuel for the fire. Literally. Being angry at someone is fuel for the fire. Literally. Like pouring gasoline on the little tiny ember that is still burning, that is your soul. And as you spend time hating, that ember gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you spent time in hate, you know that it'll light you on fire. That's what it's for. Enact your will. Engage in the world. Be the counterpoint to what you hate. Skew the average in your direction. But again, that's when you're done. That's when the hate has served its purpose and it reinvigorated your ember into the raging fire it once was.